thought-provoking podcast that sheds light on the challenges faced by young people living in urban areas. We highlight the resilience and creativity of young leaders who are finding innovative ways to overcome the challenges our young people are facing, inspiring listeners to take action to support them. This is A Different Cloth.
What's going on, A Different Cloth family? We are back. I'm Angel. We got our boss, Jose, the boss, the guy.
El Jefe.
And we got a special guest today. Sir, you've Pastor Pablo. No, Pastor Pablo here.
That is insane. He's starting already.
No. All right, so today's going to look a little different. We're having a conversation, a live conversation with a good friend of mine, a good friend of Jose's. And we're just going to ask him a few questions about ministry inside of the church, now doing ministry outside of the church, transition. He's newly married. What does that look like today?
Like 3 days in? 3 days?
Four days.
That's it.
4 days in. Let's
4
go.
days in, baby.
That's it. And then we just want to have that conversation. Just like Pablo, a lot of us are dealing with either transition or what do different roles look like, what does life look like. And we thought it'd be great to have a inside perspective of how things are working. Right?
Yeah.
Solid?
I'm ready. Let's get it.
All right, I got
Oh,
first
man.
question.
I seen the gloves come on. Oh, that's crazy.
No, how would you define ministry?
Yeah. For me, ministry looked like,
You said looked?
because I'm thinking before I came to RAG, and then it did change when I came to RAG. Before I came to RAG, ministry looked like having a title and being a leader over a people group, leading to a vision. That's what I thought. I in my mind, I thought ministry was. Now I think ministry obviously goes past just the church. You know, like the comment, we're just past the four walls. You know, like for sure it goes past the four walls. We're not. I limited myself to the church, and now working in schools and even learning with Nathan, like, hey, all these kids are image bearers of God, and even though they don't know God or if they have different belief systems, my job is to remind myself they're image bearers of God. So for me, ministry is like, hey, how can I love these kids who don't even know who God is, who don't even maybe agree with my belief systems, but still love them, love the hell out of them. Huh?
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So for me, and not just non-believers, but also believers as well.
Yeah.
So I think that's what ministry
Was
is.
it? You got another one?
No.
right,
I love
let's
that
go for
answer
it.
though. That's yeah.
He read that one.
ChatGPT.
Was it difficult to now going into the schools? Was it difficult, I guess, the way you interact with kids, the way you speak with kids? Like, were you still beating them over the head with the Bible, trying to?
Yeah, at first, I remember when I first interviewed here at RAG, they asked me the question, hey, how would you respond to a student who identifies as a girl but identifies as a guy? How would you respond? And I was like, because I at the time, I didn't really know Jose. I mean, I knew who RAG was, but I didn't know it was like, do y'all want the religious answer or do y'all want the, but deep down what I said, I told them, I said, I would, out of respect for them, I would call them by what they want to identify as. So at first it was difficult because it's like, dang, like, okay, like it's not what I believe, but at the same time, like I want to love them, I want to meet them where they're at.
Yeah.
I had to learn that though, especially first day with Castro, where it's like, dude, man, church kids is cool because like I'll talk to your parents. These kids don't even have parents most of the time, and it's like they don't even care, right? So yeah, it was for sure a tough transition. But the more training, more coaching, and really being just with the people and these kids just want to be heard. So learning that and just like instead of like beating the head with the Bible, now it's like let me just sit with you and let me just listen. You know, I had to remind myself like that's what Jesus did. Like when Jesus sat at the woman with the woman at the well, he just sat and listened. You know.
Yeah.
So.
Question: How many times?
Okay, ready.
I know. No. Got the scriptures and everything.
We gonna get them.
How many times since you've been here have you had to love somebody who identified as something different? Like let's go. Like it's one thing to know that in theory, and be like, well, out of respect for them,
right?
Tell me about how that played out for you when you actually saw that in the classroom, because I think you have, right?
This semester has been almost all my schools. Besides one. Almost.
So tell me about that for you now. How is that when you actually see the person?
Yeah. Now it's like I love them enough to kind of, in a way, not defend what they believe, but protect them as like a, hey, you know, I want, and we still feel cared for in the classroom, respected in the classroom, because you have students who are immature, and even in middle schools, that don't understand that when there is a girl in there, but wants to identify as a boy, they start laughing and giggling, right? And so now, you know, it's easier for me to be like, hey man, like we have to respect these students in this class. Like, doesn't matter. And every single class I always start off with, hey, we each have different belief systems. We each have been raised differently. We each live in different worlds, but we're all coming together and just in a safe, in a brave place now. So it's a lot more easier now. There is some challenges though that I haven't, that I'm like, okay, how do I do this? You know, cause like one student was laughing at this girl. She identified as a guy. Wasn't laughing at her, but the moment was just like, it looked like he was laughing at her. And he was like, no, I wasn't laughing at her. And the girl was like, it's him. And I said, oh shoot, like, okay. Yeah. And so there's moments like that where I'm still like, okay, how do I navigate those things?
Sure.
But it's been a lot easier.
Yeah.
And literally reminding myself that like they're image bearers of God.
Yeah.
And it's like, dang, it's crazy. Even though, you know what I mean, with their situation, what they're going through, it's like they're image bearers of God. That's wild. They're still created by God.
No, that's good. So even with that, think about how ministry has changed for you now and the context of you doing. Could you imagine if you was to go back into the 4-wall component?
Oh yeah.
How different would ministry look for you from that perspective now that you've been on this side of things?
Yeah. I would focus less on the fun and more on relationships, and focus on, because you know, when I was in it was like a team of people, young people that I was leading, and the goal was like, how can we make this the funnest thing ever, and X, Y, and Z, but the relationships were never there. Wow. So we were giving away the AirPods, we were giving away the music, you know what I mean? Like we're playing had the DJ at all the events, but like I feel like the relationship was last on our mind. Wow. And now I can, thinking back, like, man, yeah, if I could go back in there, like the goal is relationships, and how can we transform with relationships? You know what I mean? If the students don't get transformed in one service, how can a relationship with the leader that they have transform them? That's how it'd be different, way different like that.
That's fire. So.
What would you say, going back inside the walls, what would you say was probably one of the most toughest things for you to learn in leadership, and how did that transition over to now being at RAG, where ministry is a bit different, a lot different?
Yeah, the hardest thing I had to learn was for sure not to idolize the people that were over me that placed me in the position. I think I for sure did that a lot. I idolized my pastors, and everything that I did was for them to notice me, to tell me good job. So I would have I try my hardest to have these dope ideas, not for students, not for the youth ministry, but just to hear my pastor say, man, good job. And then when he would tell somebody else that, I'm just like, oh, frick, I got to try harder. I didn't feel adequate enough. Wow. And now coming into this ministry, coming into RAG, that resonated a lot when I first got here. I wanted the best idea so I can tell Jose. I wanted to be the one that stood out, because I just want to hear Jose say good job. And not just Jose, and then it branched off to the other, like Brandon and everybody else who is over me still. Like I want to come in with the great stories. I want to come in with like, oh man, at the school this happened. But now, literally from that was probably a year, close to a year and a half ago. Now I want to do it because God placed me here, and I want to make God proud, right? Like I want to get literally pour my all into RAG. So one day, if I ever do leave, I can leave like how Jose says, like, man, I literally got everything out of RAG, and RAG got everything out of me. Yeah. And so I don't want to do it, because it did get tiring. Yeah. It did get tiring. Like, I was so discouraged all the time. Like, man, am I not doing good? Like, even my first ever school I went on, Jose went with me, and I was like, oh, shoot. Like, my heart was pounding. I was like, he was like, yeah, I'm going to go with you. And I'm like, no way. But then I got in my head. I was like, is he going with me because I suck? Is he going with me because he don't think I can do it? And literally, even now, this semester, with having co-coaching some of my schools, literally, I got really discouraged when they said, hey, this person's going to go on campus with you. Because in my mind, I was like, do you not think I can do it? Do you not think I'm adequate enough? Yeah. Right. That's kind of...
It reminds me of this thought that if you live for their acceptance, you'll die by their rejection. Yeah. So let's talk about the opposite side of that.
Oh, I don't like you. All right, let's go. He was waiting.
Where are you?
He was waiting. Yeah. He was waiting. He was waiting.
You went there.
I did.
It's such a real thing, bro.
Talk.
Look, if I'm honest, and I love that you're being honest about just where you came from and how you idolize the people above you, bro. I know tons of people in ministry that put their pastors on a pedestal and do more for their pastors than they ever do for Jesus.
Yeah.
And
absolutely,
it's a real thing.
Yeah.
Okay, like it's real. And you also got to experience the opposite side of that.
Yeah.
You were let go.
Yeah.
Right?
Fired. Let's keep it real.
Fired.
I was fired.
I was trying to be cute about it, but you got fired.
Yeah.
Talk about that.
Yeah.
And how that affected you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, man, it literally just felt like the people who I sacrificed everything for, again, like it was for them. Like, it wasn't for God. I think if my mindset was like, I'm doing this for God, it would have been different. But my sacrifice was like, I left my job because I wanted them to see how committed I was, even though I wasn't getting paid, right? I was doing DoorDash, Instacart. Like I was getting into all this, you know what I mean? Like I was doing all these sacrifices. Yeah. And you know, the moment I got fired, it was really tough because I'm just like, bro, do you not see me being committed? Like, what more do you want me to give? I was so frustrated, and which then translated me how I seen my relationship with God. Because I'm just like, God, do you even love me? Like, how much more do you want me to give? Like, what the hell? Like, I'm giving everything right now. Like, I'm really. It was a tough time. That whole thing, and it was rough. Even still going to, I still attend the church, and I honestly still attend it because Jose told me not to leave. I mean, at the time, Jose, because I wanted to leave, and Jose was like, I don't think you should leave yet. And I was like, bruh, I'm trying to leave, man. Like, dang. I didn't want to be there. And it was tough being at the services.
Why didn't you leave?
Because I honored Jose. I honored him as a leader. And I said, okay, like, you said not to leave. Like, you know, at the time I wasn't married, so it wasn't like a thing where let me talk to my wife, right? It was like, okay, I trust you as a leader. You know, you know what I mean? That excuse I can use now. It was like a thing where like, hey, I trust Jose's leadership. I trust what he sees in me, and him saying not to leave. And I was like, dang. So I stuck it out. And even like when I got let go, I served that same Sunday, and it was trash. Like, oh, I didn't want to. I was so angry being there. I didn't want to and then even listening to like the welcoming the new people when they're just like, man, we're a family here. We love y'all. I was like, man, I was cussing in my seat. I was like, bro, F y'all. Like, you ain't family. Like, it was rough. Like people come up to me like and act like nothing happened. I was like, bro, like, get out my. It was rough. And honestly, it wasn't until this past Father's Day when I feel like I got that reconciliation. With my pastor, when he came up to me and just hugged me and he said, man, I love you so much. And really, I think that's what I needed, just for him to give me that. And I apologized to him. And there was it was right after he came off the stage to preach. He came to me, he hugged me, and it was a real conversation. We was like, as we were hugging, I was being real with him. And he took it and he apologized, and it was vice versa as well. Like I apologized for things too, so I'm not saying like, oh, it's him doing all the bad stuff, right? But after that moment, I feel like I seen the church in a different light now. Wow. To where now it's easy for me to go. I still fall in those moments. I do, of course, because I have a lot of friends still in the ministry and working it, and so sometimes they tell me things are going on. I'm just like, that's whack, that's this, that's that. So I've had to create those boundaries for sure. Like, hey, for my own sake, like just keep it at bay. Don't tell me like all the detailed things or anything like that, because I want to still love my people. It's
great. No, it's interesting because could you imagine leaving when it happened and not getting that moment of reconciliation?
Right.
And how that would affect you, not just now, but 5 years from now in ministry. Yeah. How do you think that would have affected you?
I would have went to another ministry, just how I came into here at RAG. I would have went into another church being like, yo, I'm going to prove them wrong. I'm going to prove everything. Like, I'm going to prove them wrong. I'm going to make them wish they never let me go. That's how I came into RAG, and I was open with Jose about it. Like, hey, this is my heart behind this. I want to prove them wrong. And we had really tough conversations around that. But I think it would have been a lot worse going into a church with that mindset and now leading another people group with that. Because I've had offers, I've had this and that, and things that I really entertained for sure.
Yeah.
But I would say it's for sure. I know Eric's eating, snacking on some Ritz. But going back, I think it would have been. I would have been so unhealthy, and I would have done more damage to a church than any good from that. Really put me on, So
you mentioned that when you had the conversation with your pastor, that you acknowledged that you apologized as well, and you had some wrongs and some faults.
Yeah,
as well.
absolutely.
Can you talk about the maturity level of like the leader you were then and then the leader you are now? Like, what even made you have that conversation of like, hey, I'm also wrong in this?
Yeah. I think the way I just led in general, the way he trusted me with the ministry, and the way I didn't see I didn't value it as much. Like I said, everything I did was still to be like, I'm gonna impress him. Oh, you see what I did? You see what I did? And it did a lot more damage. And so when it was hard, because when I transitioned into that position, they had just gone through a youth pastor that they loved, and so even the leaders loved. And literally, when they told the leaders that, hey, this person transitioning out, Pablo transitioning in, it was like, oh dang. Not because they didn't like me, but because they loved the last pastor. And for me, like I was like, okay, like y'all wanna act like that? Okay, like hey, and so I wanted to start off strong, and I didn't even build a relationship with my leaders. I was just like, yo, and it was a part of rejection, like for sure. Hey, y'all rejecting me? Okay, I'm gonna like, and literally when I got in, people to be like, hey, I don't feel called to this ministry anymore. I think I'm gonna leave. And I was like, okay, bye. And my line would always be like, it's okay, God's gonna supply more. And I can see definitely how that was like not a good thing to be, especially towards my leaders. And so it was tough. It was tough to get like people on board with the vision, because I had no vision for it, I kind of, oh man,
no,
you smiling.
No,
dang, you smiling.
When
Jose smiles, I mean, he got something.
No, I'm just thinking,
yeah, he got something.
Well, first, you were right in saying that God's going to supply more, because he always does that, right?
Yeah.
But he also is, supplies more to those that steward well what's given to their hand. I actually love the fact that you're mentioning how you got thrown in and you were doing it more for the pastor than anything. To me, this is a very clear example of doing versus being, right? Where you weren't being your most authentic self. Yeah. And leading from that space, you were performing.
You 100%.
And you're going to always get worn out, burnt out, tired of performing. And then when you do, you're going to typically blame the person that's making you perform, which in your case was your pastor. Yeah. Right? And not that he made you perform. You made yourself perform because 100%. You wanted to perform for him. 100%. So we've been in a lot of coaching conversations around being versus doing. Yeah. I want you to think about who Pablo is and who you show up as every day on campuses, like right now. And what's been the impact that you've seen from you being with students now versus you trying to jump through hoops for people just to do something? Yeah.
I know we do like the three things that we want to experience, right? And we did that in our coaching training. So like for me, the three things I want students to experience is one, freedom. I want them to feel heard, and I want them to feel, I know we can't really say love to the students, but I want them to feel loved and cared for by me. And really the impact has been crazy just by like my student, my first semester, Castro, literally nothing shifted for me in him. Like it was a tough relationship until I said, hey, let's meet me here.